All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about what Errol Spence Jr. had to say about the Terence Crawford fight. And undisputed seems like a little bit of a softening on his position. Let's talk about that in this video. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Man, heard an interview by Errol Spence Jr. Talked about a series of things in his lead up to his fight with Yordenis Ugas. And it sounds as if a lot of the other reports that have been coming out over the last couple months may be true, and that fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is going to be difficult to make. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. Thank you so much to everybody that continues to support the channel. If you are subscribed, if you're not subscribed, please accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so that you can be notified of when we release more videos. And yeah, so let's get to this, man. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Not too long ago, maybe or last year, Terence Crawford came out and said something to this effect. He said that he wanted to fight Errol Spence Jr. He wanted undisputed. However, if undisputed did not happen, that it would not affect his legacy. He said that he already believed that he was a undisputed champion. He had been an undisputed champion, and that that will get him into the Hall of Fame. And, you know, if the fight happens, he really wants it to happen. If it doesn't happen, you know, he'll move on to other things and his life will continue. Errol Spence Jr., on the other hand, had been very, very adamant about the fact that he wanted to be undisputed, and he was looking to get all 4 belts, right? It was strap season, right? Man down isn't necessarily strap season, but strap season, right? That whole line of conversation. Well, in this interview, which is quoted by Boxing News 24, Errol Spence Jr. said something that sounded a little bit more like what Terence Crawford was saying, which was that, look, man, I want to be undisputed, but if I cannot get undisputed, then, you know, it's my life will move on. And said things to the effect of that, you know, there are other really great champions that went into the Hall of Fame that had 3 belts. They didn't have 4. So, you know, he wants to fight with Terence Crawford and he wants to get it done. But if it doesn't get done, you know, what can he do about it? He's just going to go ahead and try to push on, you know, with his career. So, like I said, what's good for the goose is what's good for the gander. I don't like the sound of that talk, but you know, understanding where the politics of it are, you know, his talk aside, that very well may just be the issue. You've heard reports from the PBC where the PBC said, through Tim Smith, the director of communications, that they would not even make an offer to Terence Crawford because of the amount of money that Terence Crawford is going to want to make. You also heard just a couple days ago, Showtime's president, Stephen Espinoza, said that the money was not, said that, that they would not offer a multi-fight deal to Terence Crawford because they don't really know about, you know, what real big fights are available for him. And specifically talking about the Terence Crawford Errol Spence Jr. fight, he said, look, if these guys are both trying to make $20 million a fight, you know, I don't know if that is really going to be, you know, if that's a realistic thing. However, you know, he did say that he thought that the fight was more likely than it had been in the past, right? Now, dealing with people in business, and if you deal with people just, you know, people that kind of, try to not make it seem like there's no chance, right? And be, you know, sort of, optimistic and not, cutting off paths or opportunities. That's kind of what I think, Stephen Espinoza was doing there. I think he was just being, if he was being a little bit more blunt, you know, he might say, I don't think that this fight is going to happen anytime soon, because, you know, to say that, you know, it's more likely than it had been in the past, that doesn't mean that it's actually likely. It's just more likely than it was in the past. And I'm sure I know what it is that he was referring to in that instance. He was clearly talking about what was the fact that Terence Crawford is not with Top Rank, right? So I think probably the biggest thing that is coming up and holding up this fight is the fact that, Terence Crawford, and maybe this has something to do with Terence Crawford's lawsuit, right, where, Bob Arum is putting out on the street that he's losing money with Terence Crawford, right? The fact that Terence Crawford has had pay-per-views that have not been successful. And, Bob Arum, like Tim Smith said, the director of communications from PBC, really did not develop Terence Crawford like that. And the PBC has their own fighters that they have to develop, right? So that's where you see, a lot of fights happening with the PBC and Errol Spence Jr., Yordenis Ugas. That was an in-house fight. Sean Porter's an in-house fight. Danny Garcia's an in-house fight, right? All of these fights are things that can take place within the PBC or within Showtime. Even when you talk about a potential fight with Jaron Ennis, Jaron Ennis is a big star he's not a big star yet, but he's a very big talent that Showtime, not PBC, but Showtime wants to make a star. So a lot of the fights that they may be available for Terence Crawford in the lead in to build him for the Errol Spence Jr. fight may very well go to Jaron Ennis, because those guys have a longer view plan for Jaron Ennis, right? And so it just is all around just sounds like, man, it's how unfortunate it is that Terence Crawford and being able to get the Errol Spence Jr. fight, right? Not for Terence Crawford himself, but it's unfortunate for boxing fans that really want to see that fight that Terence Crawford wasn't with a PBC or wasn't with an outfit that really believed in him, really supported him, really helped grow his name, and also know that where Terence Crawford wouldn't necessarily take the one olive branch that was out there, which was Floyd Mayweather Jr. saying, man, I would love to work with him, right? And bringing him in, because if Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Terence Crawford worked together, more than likely they would get some type of deal done with Showtime and the PBC and all that, just because off the strength of Floyd Mayweather Jr. being involved with it. At least I think there's a likelihood of that. So man, just hear Errol Spence Jr. say that, that's, man, I didn't like that. Also, Yordenis Ugas said something that was similar to that, where he talked about after he beats Errol Spence Jr. in this fight that's coming up, if he beats Errol Spence Jr. in this fight coming up, that he wants to fight Terence Crawford next. But if that fight doesn't happen, then, there's the Keith Thurman fight. So, what I really think is more than likely going to happen is what people have been speculating for a while, is that Errol Spence Jr., if Errol Spence Jr. beats Yordenis Ugas, or Yordenis Ugas beats Errol Spence Jr., and there's not a rematch, the winner is not forced into fighting Butiev versus Stanosis winner for the WBA regular and gets that mandated by the WBA, then they may very well just go off and fight Keith Thurman, because that's what it looks like. That's where all signs point to, which is unfortunate for people that really want to see that mega fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. I still am saying I don't believe that that Terence Crawford is ducking or Errol Spence Jr. is ducking. It just really seems to be a business type of thing that very well may prevent this fight. Of course, there's that out there side that Terence Crawford says, all right, man, just give me whatever amount of money there is for this fight. I want to go in there. I'm going to beat this guy. And, he just takes a real low ball offer to get the fight done. But I don't think that's very likely from Terence Crawford. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.